Francesco, and I work for Google in Italy, in Milan. I work with mobile partners, mobile app developers, to actually have them improve their mobile apps using the full set of Google products. So advertising, but as well as Google Analytics, Google Cloud, Google Play, etc., etc. And my friend Gilberto here.
Yes. My name is Gilberto Cocchi. I'm a technical account manager in Google. I also came from a mobile background, so I used to work in Google London, UK, have experience with publishers in monetization solutions like DFP, AdX, and AdMob, most likely.
Thank you. So what we will talk about today is basically how you can supercharge your app business with AdMob. AdMob is a platform that Google provides that it's mainly born as an ad network, so something to provide advertising. Now we will see how it works. And as well provides now advanced features like analytics, promotion, etc., etc. So basically the agenda for today is the following. We will see how to monetize a mobile app, what are the different models of monetizations that are available, and what are the metrics you need to care about when you choose the different models, the formats that are available in the area of advertising, and some specific new features that we have that you may have heard of as buzzwords probably, but not sure if you've already started using them in your products. Native ads, reservation, and in-app purchases. Then we will go a little bit more into the details of native ads and as well of how to integrate the AdMob platform. So you will see how easy that is. And then some of the features like mediation that are peculiar to mobile ad networks. So I'll ask you maybe some background about you. How many of you are app developers? How many of you are students? How many of you are professionals? Etc., etc. So how many of you are students, for example? Okay, 5, 6. How many of you are professionals? Okay, the same amount? Perfect. And you develop apps, or have all of you developed or started to develop at least one app in Android and iOS? 2, 3, 4? Okay, good, good, good. So probably you have a lot of experience with AdMob already. I'll ask you one question. How many smartphones were sold last year in the world? So in 2014. Let's see if you can estimate. So not 2015 because we are in it already, so it hasn't finished, but last year. Shoot a number. 5 billion, 5 billion, okay. Someone else? Let's see. 1 billion, okay, okay, good. You went pretty close to it, so 1.2 billion smartphones, but the order of magnitude is the same. Were sold worldwide. And actually, if you lined all the smartphones that were sold last year in a line, if you line them all up, you would basically cover all the way from Sydney to San Francisco. So that's what the pictures tell. Maybe I should have told you this before, and you could have estimated the number of smartphones. You can estimate the size, probably, from this graph. So mobile is definitely growing. Actually, this year, in 2015, in May, the number of Google searches in mobile surpassed the numbers of Google searches in desktop. And there are countries in developing markets where the first device that people use, it's actually a smartphone. So it's not anymore a mobile-first world where we think about mobile, but in some cases it may be a mobile-only world, where people, the only interface that they have with the internet, with the computing technologies is a smartphone. So it's really, really important when you think about developing a product. I mean, I've developed some applications myself too, and I always had in mind the Italian market because I'm Italian, I live here. I think about the Italian users with that mindset, but it's not necessarily true. So if you develop something, think about also the rest of the world, and especially the countries that are growing and that can take advantage of your services more effectively. So let's see what monetization models you have. Actually, please do interrupt me whenever you want. If I mean, all the things are pretty easy, pretty common sense, but interrupt me if you have any specific questions. So you can monetize your app in different ways. The most used one, actually 30% of the apps are monetized through advertising. Advertising means basically that an advertiser, a company, pays you for some space in the app in order to promote their products. And there are two options for advertising. The directly sold advertising, which would mean that you go to the advertisers and tell them, look, I sell you this space for that amount of money, and then you actually put their creativity, so their display ad, whatever it is, into your application. Otherwise, if you're at the beginning, so if you're not a big player, this kind of activity can be done by a big application that actually is important as a brand name, like let's say a weather application in Italy that is very famous, of course, does this kind of activity. If you're a smaller player, but I mean you cannot sell all the spaces alone in your application by going directly to the advertisers, you can use ad networks. Ad networks are basically some sort of intermediary players that negotiate both with the advertisers and with you, with the publishers, and take a little bit of percentage of the revenue that the advertisers provide. So the advertiser pays €1 for some specific space every 1,000 visits, and then let's say some ad network takes 20%, so 20 cents, and then the rest goes to the publishers, so to you, the rest of the 80 cents. There are other ways to monetize applications. There are in-app purchases, so you sell some items in the app, or you can sell your app itself, so the app can be paid. Actually, you can combine all these models together, so you can have an app that is ad-supported, but as well that shows in-app purchases, and actually these are the apps that are having the most success right now. But what's important here, and we will see how to do it later, it's somehow to identify when to show ads, when to show in-app purchases in order to maximize your revenue stream. There are also subscription models, so there are apps where you pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee in order to access either some advanced features or the whole app itself. And there are other models that are different. You can also sell, if you have a big brand, you can sell merchandising material and other things that go beyond the app monetization itself. We will focus during the talk about the first part, the ads and the ad networks. What are the important metrics that you need to care about? There are several ad networks. AdMob is an ad network. It is born as an ad network. It's now a monetization platform. And what are the metrics you care about? So you put, basically, you have some space in the application that you are selling in terms of advertising. So you're not using the space. So you care about two metrics that are fill rate and CPM. What is fill rate? Someone who can tell me what fill rate is? I bet you know. Someone that is not that shy. Tell me what fill rate is. Okay, you're a little bit shy, but you know, everyone knows. So fill rate is the ratio between the times you request an ad. So I open the app as a user, some content appears, and then in the bottom you want to put an ad, a banner. So you basically call the ad network, asking the ad network if the ad network has a banner. The fill rate is the amount of times that banner is actually shown, because it may be that advertisers in that specific period of time are not interested in buying. It's not money that comes from anywhere, of course. Advertisers have to put money in order to buy that space and may not be interested because maybe the user is not interesting enough or the time of the day is not interesting enough. So fill rate or the country is not interesting enough. If your user is browsing your app through a country that that is not interesting for advertisers, then ads are not shown. So it's important to have a high fill rate. AdMob provides a fill rate that is in the order of magnitude of more than 90%, even 99% in most of the cases. So basically it means that for almost every ad request that you make, a banner is actually shown. And this is extremely important because otherwise you're wasting spaces. It's a space that you could have monetized in a different way. But the second important thing is CPMs. CPM means cost per mille. Mille stands for thousands. And it means the amount of money that you get for every 1,000 times a banner is shown. So of course, we measure this. We don't measure the amount of money you get for one banner visualization because it's usually too little, less than probably 1,000th of a euro. So you would probably not be able to measure that. But every 1,000, you can get €1. You can get 0.5 euros. You can get 2 euros. So it's important to have high CPMs. There are several ad networks in the market. There are some who provide very high CPMs, even 10 euros every 1,000 visits, which means 1 cent per every visualization of the banner. But maybe the fill rate is 5%. So you cannot use only that ad network because you would monetize your traffic 5% times 10 euros, which means 0.5 euros. Otherwise, you could monetize €1 CPM, but with a 100% fill rate, it would be €1. And the best is to combine all approach. And we will see how to do that. You can make multiple calls during the same ad request. You can show first, try to show a network that pays a lot. and then try to show a network that instead fills everything. So you can combine this approach, and we will see how to do that later. We have several formats. So in addition to, these are the metrics of fill rate and ICPM are the ones that somehow distinguish how you want to use your ad networks. But there are also, you can choose which kind of ad formats you want to show in your application. So basically, we have pretty much all ad networks provide the same formats, but there are some that are peculiar. And you basically have the interstitials. Interstitials are full screen ads that should appear in moments where the users are not using the application. One thing that I want to stress here is advertisers pay in order to get a return on investment. So they want that users buy their product or download their applications, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that you avoid that users get caught in advertising when they don't want to, because then what happens? They click inadvertently on the ad, so they get to the advertiser's page, but they don't buy the product, they are not interested in it. And what happens is that your eCPMs become lower and lower, because they see in the reporting that when they've advertised on your application, no one is buying their products. And so in the end, you will get lower eCPM. So it's important not to think only about, I will show as much advertising as possible because this way I will earn more, but also I have to show advertising that advertisers are willing to pay more, and hence I can earn more in the long term as well. And apart from that, of course, we want to, as an ad network, we want to protect the advertisers and we want to protect the ecosystem. So if we detect invalid activities, we disable accounts, of course, because we want advertisers to spend more and to get the return on investment they want. And hence, it's important actually to keep them safe. So show interstitials, yes, because users, despite probably it's counterintuitive, like them more than banners, but show them in a position where the user is not interacting with your app. So between levels, if it's a game, or when the user is transitioning from one section to another, if it's an app with content, and care a lot about this. We have app install interstitials, we have video interstitials as well, that load in some specific conditions, in Wi-Fi, for example, etc. We have the standard banners, so usually the small ones, but now the screens are getting bigger. You are probably used to a format that is 320 times 50 pixels, so the standard banner. But as screens are getting bigger, you may also take advantage of larger formats, especially in scroll views, where you have a lot of content. You can put a 300 pixels times 250 pixels, which actually provides more space for the advertisers to show their brand. And then we have native ads. Native ads are ads that look like the content of your app, that are more well integrated into your application, and hence can provide better results. And Gilberto will talk about them later, so I will not tell you anything more about that. We were saying before that in alternative to ads, you also have in-app purchases. But the question that you may want to ask yourself is, I can show the user a banner to buy something like an extra life or pass a level or some extra powers if it's a game, but you don't know where to show it. And usually you would show it in the same place where you could show advertising. So you can show an interstitial or you can show an in-app purchase. If you show an in-app purchase and the users don't buy, then you haven't earned advertising revenue, so you're losing revenue from advertising. Instead, if you show ads to a user who were likely to buy, because maybe they have bought in the past, they've bought in similar apps, then you're losing potential in-app purchase revenue, which is usually higher for the users that convert than advertising. So AdMob provides you the possibility to serve in-app purchase ads in the same spaces where you would probably show advertising, and also allows actually to target these in-app purchase ads only to users who are likely to buy, because AdMob has the history, has the data about the user's behavior, and is able somehow to provide that to you and allow you to maximize the mix of revenue between in-app purchases and advertising. And another thing that you can do is you can create segments within AdMob of users. So, for example, Italian users or US users, or users who have gone past level 5, users who have gone past level 10, or users who spend more than 10 minutes per day in the app. You can basically specify all these combinations by linking your AdMob account with your Google Analytics account. And you can use these segments to target the in-app purchase ads. So if you think you can do better, actually, than the automatic targeting, which may very well be because you know your audience, you know your users better than we do, you can actually override the automatic feature and use your own segments to show the in-app purchase to users that you think are likely to buy. And this is extremely important in a world where the mixture between in-app purchase revenue and advertising revenue is actually becoming the key to success for app developers.
How do you pay? Through an app store or credit card?
Exactly. So the users can buy the products through the Play Store, and they have several payments methods in the Play Store. So they may have the credit card or any other method, Google Wallet, etc., etc.
Does it work also on iOS? Or?
Yes.
Through App Store. Yeah. The only difference is that because of the Google Play and AdMob integration, the Google Play application products, and also which are the IAP products that you define in the developer dashboard when you develop an Android app, are automatically fetched and available in the AdMob UI. So you can see already from the app linking the different products like 500 coins, 1,000 coins that you have for that app and link in AdMob. On iOS, there is not this kind of connection, so you have just to manually define, but the work is the same.
Is it the revenue share about the...
Yeah.
The revenue share is the same applied by iTunes and the Play Store. It's no
30%.
Yeah.
As soon as I
Depend by
apply, I will share 30%.
Yeah, but,
exactly.
But not
So
with AdMob. AdMob is not in the middle here. It's only either Play Store or iTunes Store.
Exactly. So the Play Store will take, of this €1, will take 30 cents, and the developer will take 70. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there is not additionally.
The fact that there is AdMob in between does, so all this technology here doesn't add any additional fee. So if you showed in-app purchases not in the ad space, so normally in your app, it will be the same, so 30% revenue share. And it's the same as paid apps as well, so if you sell a paid app. Yeah. And another feature, the last one, that I will present for today is the reservations feature. So we saw at the beginning that you can directly sell ads, so not necessarily through an ad network. So if you have you're several people and you want to do maybe a local campaign with some specific advertiser that wants to put their banner in your application, and they maybe are willing to pay you more than what AdMob would pay, you can actually book these campaigns in AdMob itself. So you can create a direct campaign. Maybe you agree with the advertiser. Let's say it's a shop in your city. You agree with them to show the ad 100,000 times in your application. So you can specify, I want to show this ad 100,000 times, and the rest will go to AdMob. Or this ad has to reach at least a number of clicks. So you can specify a goal in terms of clicks. So AdMob will show that ad until the number of clicks is reached, and then it will only show AdMob. Actually, it will balance this. So if there are situations in which AdMob pays more, it will show AdMob. And if there are situations in which your ad will pay more, then it will show your ad. You can then, of course, in this case, load the creative, so the JPEG, or it may be a custom thing that you want to show in the application, and then you will be able to report on it and see how's it going. So if users are clicking on it, if users are seeing it, etc., etc., and then you can get paid by the advertiser for this. Okay, so now we will go a little bit more into the details of native ads, which are really, really a new feature of AdMob and probably a buzzword in the industry, and on how to integrate the AdMob SDK. So I'll give the word to Gilberto.
Let's mute. Okay. Thank you, Francesco. Francesco already told you about fill rates, eCPMs, and also ad formats. And it was before explaining how not advertisement born in mobile, and it was with banners, which was taken from web, of course. But as a result, the banners were not always the best solution for mobile apps. Sometimes, especially for advanced publishers or gaming publishers with the kind of really interesting UIs and effects. We didn't like to have like advertising like a square box or a rectangle, everything like stuck or like maybe not always like appealing in terms of a design compared with their apps design and colors. So native ads actually was born as a standard first for the mobile like need to better integrate ads in the app design and workflow. So what it actually enables is like to have experiences that are better integrated in terms of the design, the appealing, the font style, the size, and all kind of flexibility that is really critical to have like a nice, well-looking app, not just for your content, but also for advertisement. And as a result, you also increase the user experience for that as well. So native ads are kind of ads that are better integrating the design and also are always, always distinctive as an ad. So they have to be like always present some like ad attribution logo, which makes sure to the user that as an advertiser is not like content in your application, as well as also other kind of information, so like feedback that you can give, like a slightly different background, something like that, to avoid to trick the user and let them think that an ad is actually real content. Okay. So the difference with native ad and the standard banner is that the banner is actually rendered in an application with what we call web views, which are instances of web browsers, both on iOS and Android. So as a result, you have like this kind of limited area where you can like request a format and render freely, but is always constrained into a box, okay, in the standard banner advertisement in apps. And it's the same on web. The difference with native is that you don't send like a banner, which is an HTML document, but you send like atomic information, like an asset for the app icon, like a logo to show like the application icon as application banner as well, and also other information possibly, like a headline with the name of the app, and of course the click-through URL, and possibly the description of the app. So you kind of send like, the ad network is sending you like data, like a JSON, if you want to think about one of the formats, and then gives the app developer the freedom to freely render this kind of content with the native elements that they might have already, maybe used for content ads, to render the native ads as well. So you can see like the advantages here. Imagine like a 300 by 20 format, 300 by 250 format, which Francesco showed before. It will look like, of course, like, vertical aligned, but not like occupying all the wall space of the screen, because you cannot do it, because it will be like constrained to be a 300 by 250 format in density independent pixels. With native ad, you can put like an ad to be full screen, well integrated, and then best appealing for your apps. Of course, there are like some limitations, and in terms of the flexibility we have to do, there is like a process to have your app enabled for this, and a review to have not to trick the user, of course. So there are some reviews, which is a kind of automated process to have your app like reviewed and actually approved for the type of implementation, in order to make sure that it's not tricking the user, nor like making them think that it's content ad, all these kind of guidelines. But the main guideline is always ad choices logo, ad attribution logo, kind of different background, like highly identifiable from the content ads as well. And the type of templates that you can have is are app install ad, which is one of the biggest demands that you have in AdMob, of course, really highly converting thanks to the fact that you are in a mobile application, a mobile device, and the content ad. And the difference here is that usually content ads have like different kind of images, more content, more description, when the application ad has like the control to know that the app is either installed or not, and have the install button instead of just the redirect button, which is pointing you to a landing page. But now, let's see with the code how to properly implement mobile ads with AdMob. So in the past, there was like a separated jar library that you had to download from Google developers ads website. You had to put into your Eclipse at the time and release an app every time. And every time there was like an update from Google, you had to like download the SDK again, integrate it with your app, publish the update to the App Store, and hope that your users will update the app. Now, the Google Mobile Ads SDK, which includes the AdMob SDK methods, is part of the Google Play Services app. Do you know what kind of app it is, the Google Play Services app? Somebody? Okay. The Google Play Services app is like a generic system app which is installed on every Google Play Store enabled Android device, which contains some kind of shared libraries. It contains the ads library for AdMob, Maps library, Google Analytics library, many, many more. So it's like an entry point where we kind of are able to push updates of different libraries to every Android device without requiring you anymore to download a jar file, put in your app, and have to update to the Play Store. So you can see the advantage here, because you have like an auto-update of the library of the ads application as well as other Google libraries into your device without have to do all the work again. Of course, you have to download when you are in the Android Studio anyway, the library for the point of view of the Android Studio project, because you have to get a look of the new methods that might be available and be able to compile for Java and Gradle file in order to make sure that the compile works. But when you build an app, this kind of library that you download in the Android Studio will not be present in the app because it's already present in the device. Okay. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen with iOS. So with iOS, you have to do the download of SDK, integrate in the Xcode, and every time there is a new update, if you want the new features, release a new update with the new SDK version. So essentially, it's like that. You have to go to the build Gradle file and just link to the Google.com Android GMS service. And this is like the main Google Play Services app, which is installed on every device, as I told you so. And there is like the ads library, which includes all the methods for ads. And then essentially to create like an ad, you need like some basic elements, really basic elements. You need to know like some sort of inventory point, like what kind of application it is, what is your network, and what is like the location in terms of inventory structure that you want to set for your app. In AdMob, you have like, when you create an account, you have like a so-called property code, which identifies your account in AdMob. And there is like another numeric sequence, which identifies like the inventory structure that you define in AdMob, which might be like one inventory ID for your Android app, one other for iOS app, or maybe like home section, or another for Interstitials. So you are able to report the performance on different sections of the advertisement in your app. And after the ad unit ID, which is like identifier for the inventory of the kind of placement that you want to monetize, you just need to know the size. So the banner, it could be a banner, it could be like MPU, which stands for 300 by 250. It could be like native, it could be a leaderboard. You just need to know like what kind of size you want to implement, which will create the window depending on the size you want to monetize with your app. In order to do that, you have two options. You can go straight forward to your layout in XML on Android and create like this Google Android GMS ads view element, which will create this kind of augmented and features web view, which is called an ad view, and then you will be able to request an ad and show an ad automatically. But if you want to go maybe more programmatically and want to create the layout directly on the code, you can do that as well. Anyway, what you have to do is to, after you define this kind of web view, which could be like defined programmatically in the code or like in the XML, you have to send an ad request, which is the request, like an HTTP request, which will be sent to AdMob, and it's the one where you will measure failure rate, as Francesco was saying, if you get an ad. So, by a recap, you have an ad unit, you have an ad size, you define like an ad view, which is a view element where the ad will be placed, and an ad request. And then you just have to load the ad, and that's it. Are there any questions about this? Okay. And now I wanted to go a bit more advanced. I wanted to show you like how you can implement a native ad. which is a bit more complicated, but also give you like the freedom that usually app developers love. In order to, instead of having like web views, which of course, as I told you, are like great for monetization standard approach, but sometimes limited in the rendering, for native ads, you don't have to define a view like at all. You just need to get like, build an ad request, as I said before, with ad unit and an ad unit code with saying like the location, and then request programmatically for kind of a template that you want. So as I said before, with native, you may request for an app install ad or a content ad. But in reality, you can also go crazy with the reservation stack and call also for a custom template. So this, of course, is standardized because it's working with ad networks, with IAB. You can get many demands from this. But if you want to go crazy, you can also have a custom template and build your custom template for as well in the reservation bit, which Francesco showed you before. And this part is missing because here there should be only your magic stuff, like the methods that you're already using to rendering content here. So you just get like information like the image, the title, like the stars rating of the app in the case of an app install ad, the different stores where you can install it, the banner and the click-through URL. But then you're completely free to render the ad as appropriate as with your methods as possible. So you can see the advantage here because you don't have a web view here, but you have the freedom to use your methods to render the app. But so is that clear? Do you have any questions? Sure.
In a normal approach for standard banner and so on, you load resources from a server.
Correct.
And that's it. And you don't care what is inside because everything is tracked inside the web view and so on. But about native advertising, when I'm going to implement kind of this method,
Sure.
I request every single resources as I understood correctly. And then about the tracking, how can the AD server know that user made impressions about
Sure. Sure.
should I request something?
No, actually not. So we have like a control on it. So for this kind of templates, it's actually shown more on our developer docs. But when you actually put this on the content, you're gonna have like a pixel which is actually gonna trigger automatically when it became visible. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. So you have like we call it pixel, but it's like an impression recording mechanism. So it will record the impression as soon as it will become visible to the user.
But should I manage it?
No, it's not.
Beyond this tracking?
With these templates, no. If you go with a custom template, yes. Yes. So if you use like standardized templates like app install ads, a content ad, everything is automated because we know the standards, we know like the fields, and when they are put in the layout, we already have the logic to know when these kind of elements became visible and trigger the pixel.
And the question is more related about custom.
Yeah, with custom templates, there is a method on the ads loader to kind of send manually the ping to AdMob. Yeah, of course, yeah. And for the click is not needed because the click-through URL will automatically register the click. So, but for manual impressions, yes, and that applies also for banners. If you want to know more, if you have a banner that is kind of invisible, you can use for your direct campaigns, like set as like not recording impression immediately, but like give you the possibility to record afterwards when you know that it become visible. So it's possible to do something like that with banner, kind of lazy loading approach as well. There are methods you can check on the Google Mobile Ads SDK codes.
But my question is it safe? I mean, the fact that I have to call manually the impression.
Of course, I mean,
I can,
yeah.
I don't know, I can write a robot and call.
Well,
Whenever I
this
want-
is only for direct campaigns, if you think
So
about it.
You have the agreement with the advertiser in this case. So yeah, you can somehow make false requests and show in the reports to the advertiser with whom you had an agreement that you had much more impressions. But then, since they will see the next day that there will be no people in their shop. They will tell you, okay, next time I want pay more.
Correct, and also we have mechanisms to kind of discard automatically invalid activity. So So there are mechanisms, there are internal libraries that detect whether the click is legit or not, or for example, if impression is legit or not. So it will be discarded. Yes. So let's go straight forward to mediation. I wanted to really discuss about this topic, but because it's critical to kind of get to the topic that Francesco was saying, to have like high fill rate and high eCPMs. So with AdMob, what you can do is like build a chain of different ad requests sent to different ad networks and try to optimize the revenue you're getting from each of ad network. We have like a connection with 38 ad networks where you can like implement the SDK and have like one request from AdMob to then kind of go and request in a waterfall system like network A, B, C, D, E, and etc. And as a result, usually what you tend to do is like to put on top like networks that have really high CPMs but maybe low fill rate, and then kind of try to equiparate and put like a good chain in order to maximize revenue. So you know, like for kind of other SDKs, what type of fill rate you can get from the reporting system, but we can do something more like with kind of an integration with AdMob and these ad networks, getting this eCPM automatically and calibrate and reorder these networks automatically. So what we do is actually give you the possibility to create this list of ad networks, and also having AdMob dynamically allocated depending on the revenue is coming to you. And also the different networks dynamically allocated depending on the real revenue that they're giving to you based on fill rate and eCPM. So what is it again? An AdMob ad request and then like a chain on different ad networks. So you may have network B, C, etc. Of course, you have to think about this may involve delay, because you have like one request to another network, doesn't fill, maybe requires 2 seconds, and then you have another request to network B, etc. So you have to think about also setting like timeouts in maximum timeouts interval, which you can do directly from AdMob. So you can like set up maximum amount of milliseconds you're sure about waiting for another network before before skipping and go to another network, etc. And the cool thing is that all of the stack performance is reported on AdMob. So in AdMob, you have like a mediation report, and you can see like how much AdMob report, AdMob field with kind of which CPM, and then also the amount of impression and clicks that every network reported to you. And if there is an API network, an API connection with the ad network, with many we have it, you can get also the real CPM adjusted in AdMob automatically. So you can see the advantage here. And this, of course, happens because you need to have like every ad network SDK in the app. So there is like a bit of a barrier here. And also the adapter of them. So with adapter, we have like manual methods which kind of record the impression and clicks back to AdMob again. In a nutshell, that's what's up.
And this you don't have to develop yourself. So you just download them from AdMob site and you put them in your app, and then it's AdMob that calls them. So you learn how to call AdMob, and then you can integrate all the ad networks without learning how to call them, how to place them, etc., etc.
Yeah. The reason why there are other ad networks that require SDKs is usually because other ad network, including AdMob, require SDK to get the better CPM. So because with SDKs, you get all of a level of signals that are good in order to better monetize your application. Do you have any question?
I think we are, yeah.
Not at all. Mediation was clear. I mean, usually it's not always easy to explain this kind of concepts. Sure.
Maybe I can take that.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a rising trend. So you see more and more users are downloading ad blockers, which are tools to basically not show ads or stop the ad requests from being made. And so, of course, I think we need to think about what the reasons are. So there are users who are annoyed by excessive advertising, by advertising that behaves in a way that is not expected or that bills automatically the credit of the account of the user. So a lot of things. We strive to avoid that, so to have good advertisers that advertise on our network, and I think that this is the only way to somehow build an ecosystem that is sustainable, where users are okay to see advertising, are happy to see them because it provides a good service for them. Advertisers are happy to invest because they get return on investment, and publishers can continue to monetize their apps. So, of course, the fact that there are ad blockers depends by the fact that there has been excessive advertising, and we strive to avoid that. There may very well be different monetization models in the future as well, in addition to that.
There are different initiatives that are being discussed, but it's not just Google, it's the IAB in general. So, for example, there are some discussion with the IAB about possibly developing some acceptable ads standards. There are many discussions, I mean, that are open to the table. Faster, yes.
So, how's that different?
Oh, okay, sure. No, actually, in app, I believe it was better, because in app, like, you got a better level of signals since years ago, because we have already information, like, without relying on HTML5 connection API, which in web is not always reliable, like to know if a user is connected to a good 3G network, Wi-Fi network, etc. Better scale the ad, for example. Creative, for example, you know, like the type of rendering path of the ad is usually much has less impact, because if you think about in the app, like what it happens usually is that mobile web is really complicated. You have like many other resources. You have like synchronous versus synchronous loading of different ads, etc. And sometimes you have more ads. In mobile you have less ads. Usually you don't. You have like another stack, because it's lower level in terms of integration for the API, etc. Also, the web view itself, if you think about it, is much lighter than an entire browser instance, because it has many less lightweight APIs as well. So in terms of it wasn't really an issue. The ad request is really fast in terms of a response. Of course, what it could create delay is these kind of components, like mediation, like network, which has to be thought well. Like, you know, how depending on how different networks are behaving, and you can measure that. You can measure like the impact of the fill rate on the ad request, on how many times they go in timeout, and then possibly remove a network and set a really small timeout. Because of course, if you don't get an ad in a really short amount of time, it's not worth it. But with app, it was maybe less critical, because also you have a possibility to, for example, for Interstitial, to preload an ad and decide when to show it. So it was like less impacting mobile apps, because you were capable like to maybe launch an app, load an interstitial, and decide to show afterwards. So it was like a capability to show immediately when the user actually will be less annoyed by that, when they don't have also to wait like for a kind of a loading pop-up, etc., which is a good feedback to don't annoy the user. Okay, thank you.